Coming up on Backchecking the Bolts.
Is there a player since you've been broadcasting that you saw that you're like, this is an NHL guy. This is a guy that I know I'm going to see in the big show?
Well, I go back to my intern days. We had Nikita Kucherov for a month, and he did not belong in this league at all. He came in, he was so good right away, and I think we all were like, we're not going to see him long, and we didn't see him long. It was a month, and he was up, and obviously he wasn't dominant year one with the Lightning, but we know what he's become now.
Welcome to Backchecking the Bolts. Backchecking the Bolts is your cup of coffee to get you the latest on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Join host Jason Linkus and the managing editor of Raw Charge, Justin Godfrey, as they break down the Lightning's most recent games and go beyond the highlights, telling you what the box scores didn't. It's time to drop the puck.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another podcast of Backchecking the Bolts. I'm your host, Jason Linkus. Justin Godfrey is sitting on the golf course probably somewhere today, so I'm going to take over, and we're going to be interviewing Lukas Favale, the voice of the Syracuse Crunch. He's going to break down last season, but also tell everyone, hey, what's down on the farm? Who could be possibly coming up for the Lightning in the 26-27 season? Now it's time to bring him in. Lukas Favale, the voice of the Syracuse Crunch. Lukas, how you doing today?
Doing great. It's, summer's flying by, so I'm excited to be talking about some hockey again. It feels like the season just ended a week ago, but looking forward to being here and talking Crunch and Lightning and whatever else comes up.
It's hard to believe training camp is next month. That's when I looked at the calendar. It's already August 7th. And I'm thinking to myself, training camp is next month and the NHL season starts at the end of September. When does the AHL season start?
Yeah, so the first Crunch game is October 2nd. So, and I don't know if there's any preseason or anything. So it's basically, the next week right after the NHL gets going. So yeah, we're a week ahead as well. It's coming quick on us and we're looking forward to it. But I do like summer at the same time, so it could slow down just a little bit. Give us a little bit more summer here before hockey kicks back into gear.
Yeah, you might have a few more opportunities to head out to Lake Ontario and enjoy the nice weather up there, even though you're getting a little Florida weather up there right now.
Yeah, it is hot and humid. I'm dying right now. We were on the golf course yesterday, and I barely made it through 18. It was getting pretty steamy by the end.
So, Lukas, let's talk about last season. A great finish to the season. Just missed out on the division title, finished second in the North. You were a couple overtimes away from advancing into the playoffs. Several players developed. The Lightning had to rely a lot on Syracuse last year with all of the injuries with the club. You had one of the best power plays in team history. When you look back on the 25-26 season, what do you remember the most?
Well, first of all, it was just, the group as a whole. It was such a fun team to be around. The leadership was great. The characters on the team were terrific. They kept the group, the room so loose all season long. It was just such a fun team to be invested in and be ingrained in throughout the course of the year. So it was an easy team to root for. Crunch fans got a great pleasure of seeing some terrific players too. I mean, it was a high octane team, a lot of scoring most of the year. It was a really good defensive team. And like you said, the Lightning depended a lot on the Crunch. And in particular, most of the time it was defensively, a lot of defensemen going, up and staying up in Tampa. So what we thought at the start of the year was going to be the Crunch's maybe top 6, top 7D, it got maneuvered around so often and so frequently. It was a totally different look by the end of the year, but it was still really good. And that I think was one of the biggest surprises for the team last year, was just how good defensively they were with guys like Declan Carlisle, Charles-Edouard Dastou, who started the year here, played most of the year in Tampa Bay. Steven Santini, the captain for the Crunch, was up in Tampa Bay maybe not most of the year, but probably a good half of the year. He was up in Tampa Bay. Yeah, whether he was playing or at least as, a depth role if needed. So the Crunch relied on a lot of players down here, like Tampa did up top. And a lot of guys stepped up. Great development, like you said. Jacob Pelletier had an MVP caliber season. He led the league in scoring. Connor Geekie was down here most of the year, and when he was terrific. So I think there was a lot of positives that we saw from this team this year, or this past year, and a lot to build on. Now, like you said, just missed out on the division title. Good series against the Cleveland Monsters in the playoffs, but came up short. Heartbreaking finish in all those overtimes in Syracuse. So disappointing end of the year where they thought this was a team that probably could have had a long run of the playoffs. But all in all, it was such a fun team to be around. And I think that's what I remember most from last year, is just the players, the personalities, and some of the highs that the team had last year.
Tell us about Jacob Peltier. Now, he did play a little bit with the Lightning last year, but 79 points, led the league in scoring. He's 25 years old, and I have to feel that going into this training camp, this might be a make or break training camp for him to find his way into the NHL. But tell Lightning fans a little bit about his game and why he was so successful in Syracuse.
Yeah, I'll get to his game in a moment, but I was talking about the personalities of the team, and he is number one on that list. Like, he is such a great guy, like perfect human being. He's terrific. He accepts everyone into the room. Like, he was the glue guy last year. Just keeps it so loose and fun. And then you add to the fact that he is a dominant player, at least at the AHL level. He's been so good in his career wherever he's been in the AHL, in Calgary and in Stockton, with, the Flames organization. And he came in last year, and obviously before, in the offseason last year, he signed a 3-year contract with the Lightning, 2-way year one, and 1-way's this upcoming year and the following year. So I think the plan was probably to be in Syracuse last year and then hopefully make the Lightning the next 2 years, at least in terms of what you're looking at contract wise. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We'll see. But he was so good on the ice. He just sees the game so well. He's such a great distributor. He can score. He had a great year, putting in goals as well this past year. He just does everything on the ice. And, add to the fact that he is a really good defensive player. I think that was where his game took the biggest step last year, was he rounded out his game defensively as well. Big on the penalty kill. He was key shorthanded, a lot of shorthanded goals or assists. So I think, all in all, he is a 60, 3-zone, 200-foot player that if he can crack the NHL and make it a full-time thing, he could be a fun player to watch. Now, whether the game translates like it does from the AHL to the NHL for him is, obviously still to be determined. But the AHL, he's great. For Crunch fans, they really were shown a treat this past season. So we'll see where he is this upcoming year. But I think all in all, he is a big part of this organization. And like you said, I think it's a big year for him. I think this training camp is crucial for him. Maybe a spot or two open up in Tampa. We'll see where things shake out in training camp. But I think his expectation is probably to really be competing for a spot there. And I think the organization is probably expecting that as well.
Another player that I think a lot of Tampa fans are expecting to see in Tampa is Connor Geekie. A young guy, spent the majority of the season last year in Syracuse, despite 2 years ago spending the majority of the season in Tampa. From when you saw Connor Geekie at the beginning of last year to the end, how did his game develop, and do you think he's ready to make that jump?
Yeah, I think the biggest question for Connor is just, where is his spot in the NHL, right? And I think that's kind of what is, I don't want to say plagued him the past couple of years, at least this past year specifically. But at this level, I mean, he is, what his skill set is a top 6 player for sure. And, the Lightning don't have a ton of those spots available right now. So it's more rounding out the rest of his game, and if he can be in a top 9, or if he has to be a 4th line or whatever it might be. Again, at the AHL level, he's got great skill. As you've seen at times up in Tampa Bay, like he can do anything with a puck. And his game also, he got better skating. He was a good defensive player. And he really, I think this past year, he really enjoyed his time in Syracuse. Like year one as a rookie, you make the Lightning out of camp. You think maybe you're an NHLer. He came down that year to the Crunch, and yeah, he was invested at that point too. Then this past year, like you said, he spent most of the year with the Crunch. So I think he really enjoyed his time this past year. I think he saw his game develop. I think the organization saw his game develop. Obviously, he ended the year with the Lightning and in the playoffs, and that kind of hurt the Crunch as well with him not available for the Crunch in the postseason. But I think he, just like Jacob, I mean, those two guys are going to be competing for spots in the NHL level. And I think it's a big camp for Connor Geekie as well, where he might fit in the NHL. I think his game is rounding out more. Maybe he can find a role that is not a top 6 role with the Lightning, but I think that's where he belongs. If he gets into an NHL spot at some point, it's going to be in the top 6 position.
How hard is the adjustment for guys like Geekie who are used to playing power play, maybe some penalty kill, but they're used to playing 20 minutes a night? How tough is that? When you're used to playing 20, you get called up, but maybe you're playing 8 to 10. Yeah. Just mentally, how hard is that when you talk to those guys?
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. And then you have to try to make the most of those minutes when you're not taking every shift. You've got shorter shifts. You're playing with different players, not to take anything away from the guys in the NHL. Obviously, they're all skilled. They all can do whatever on the ice, but it's kind of a different role in that situation. So it is an adjustment for the guys. And then on the flip side, when you're coming back down, you have to readjust and get your legs going again and all that stuff. So it's tough for those players when the expectations of what you're looking to accomplish on the ice are different. If you're in the third line, if you can score, great, but you're in a checking role, right? Like you're trying to create some energy, you're trying to maybe land a check or get in on the forecheck, and maybe you create some offense. And if you do, that's great, but you have to find other ways to contribute in those roles. And for some guys, it is just more natural. And sometimes you see guys who don't explode at the AHL level, like they don't stand out a ton, actually make better NHL players because they have that in them that it kind of fits better at the NHL level. So we'll see where that stands with some of the guys, whether it's a Connor Geekie, Jacob Pelletier, or any of the other guys who are coming up through the organization over the next couple of years. But it definitely is a mental and physical adjustment, making the most of those fewer minutes at the NHL level in a different role than what you're seeing maybe at the AHL.
You were talking about Connor Geekie, the difference between year one and year two in Syracuse. From your perspective, what is the hardest thing for players coming out of junior hockey and the NCAA when they get to the AHL? What's the hardest thing that they have to adjust to?
It really is the speed of the game. That's what the guys always talk about, how much faster it is, whether it's coming from junior or college, whatever it might be. Like, you're playing against men who are bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, they know how to play. And, I've seen a couple of coaches now here in Syracuse, Ben Grew and now Joel Bouchard. And I remember Ben always saying, you have to some of these players, especially coming out of junior, have to unlearn what they're doing at juniors to then relearn it at the AHL, because some of especially the high end guys in junior hockey who can, it's not that they're not trying, but they can dance around some of these 16-year-olds if they're a 20-year-old without making it look difficult at all. And then they come in and they're playing against 25, 26-year-olds, whatever it might be at the AHL level. And you can't get away with what you're doing at the, in juniors in the AHL. So I remember Ben always saying, some of those guys, their potential is there. They're going to get there at some point, but they have to kind of unlearn some of the habits that maybe creeped into their games to then figure it out and become better pros. So I think the biggest adjustment, like I said, is dealing with the speed, dealing with the size of the players, and just kind of the smarts that pro players have. Like, players are in this league for a reason. They're really good hockey players in the AHL and then obviously in the NHL too. So you really have to grind down on the details, make sure you know where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing, and be dialed in for those 60 minutes each and every night. And it's not easy. And then the other part of it is, like I just said, every night. The consistency is a lot of the times what holds guys back. Even if they're, you see the flashes for a week, 2 weeks, a month, then all of a sudden you're like, where is this guy for the next month and a half? So it is that consistency along with everything else that really separates the guys who maybe make it to the AHL, but don't quite get to the NHL.
I remember when I was announcing USA Junior Hockey, and the one thing that always caught my eye, some guys would skate with their head down just a little bit too long. And as the play got better, those guys got their bells rung because you just can't do it. You have to skate with your head up. And each level that you progress, you see that. But let's talk off the ice. What's the biggest adjustment for these guys off the ice the first time that they're in a Syracuse, first time they're in the ECHL? You've been through various levels of hockey. What's that off ice adjustment like?
Yeah, I think it's definitely different from the different pipelines, right? If you're coming from college, you're probably a little older, you're a little more mature. You've lived in a college environment, at least, where you're responsible for yourself, right? Like, but if you're coming from junior, a lot of the time you're living with a billet family. Maybe you're not doing your own laundry, you're not doing your own cooking, like that, and
makes a difference.
It does, like, and legit, the guys coming in here, it can be a little bit of an adjustment when you are. Now they get food at the rink, like they get lunch at the rink, they get breakfast at the rink, like that stuff is taken care of. But dinner, what am I cooking tonight? Like what I'm out of clothes. What's going on? I don't have any pots and pans. So it's some of the things that, people don't really think about. But these guys are still young. Like they're coming out of, again, college, probably a little more put together because they're probably a little older. And a little more mature, but most of the time, the guys coming out of junior or the guys coming over from Europe, like it's a big adjustment when you're figuring out how do I live on my own? Now, a lot of the times guys have roommates too, which helps. Or at least live in the building with someone else if it's an apartment complex or whatever. So they have some help along the way. And then, the Crunch front office helps for some of the other things that maybe they're not thinking about as well. But it's not easy. Right? Like it's a big step when you're trying to be a pro hockey player, think about all that stuff, get better on the ice, get better in the gym. And you also have to worry about the just real life things that are going on too.
And then there's always that threat that you might get called up, you might get traded. It's really tough for these guys to just focus solely on hockey, because just like you and I, we have to live our lives, and so do they.
Yeah. And it's funny, like, and guys coming up from the East AHL too, right? Like if they're on an AHL contract, but they're in Orlando, they're coming up and you don't know how long you're going to be up. You have a suitcase, you're in the hotel for a day, a week, a month. Who knows? Like it's just, there's so many variables away from the rink that, again, the Crunch organization, the Crunch front office, the Lightning, we try to minimize that stuff or make it as seamless and easy as possible. But there's still a lot of things that they've got to worry about. And while doing that, have to try to win games and develop as hockey players.
The Bolts and the Crunch just announced they extended their partnership through 2030. Now, when you look at the record over the 12 seasons, 520 and 331. You can't beat that winning percentage. What makes this partnership so successful?
It really is a great synergy between the two organizations. And I think we were looking at it the other day. I think it's the third most wins in the AHL or fourth most wins in I don't have the number in front of me, but it's right near the top over the time during the affiliation since 2012. And it's a great synergy, like two Calder Cup finals appearances for the Crunch in 2013 and in 2017. So the on ice success has been there. And it really has started, with Julian Brisebois, Steve Yzerman at the time when he was general manager of the Lightning, and Howard Dolgan, the Crunch owner, and Jim Sorosi. Like they just mesh so well together, and the philosophies really align with each other. And the Lightning have put a premium on winning at the AHL level. I know the playoff success hasn't been here of late for the Crunch, but the regular season success is there. And it's no secret. Like you want to develop winning at this level to have the winning, at the NHL level. And the Lightning won a Calder Cup in Norfolk in 2012, went to the finals of the Crunch in 2013, went to the finals in 2017, and it all led up to those championship teams for the Lightning, the finals team in 2015 and the back-to-back cups later on. So I think it works well for the Crunch because the Lightning want to win and the Crunch want to win. Like it's not like that in every NHL, AHL affiliation. A lot of AHL teams are now owned by their NHL clubs, so it's a little bit of a different mindset. The Crunch are still independently owned, one of the longest running now in the league. And Howard Dolgan wants to win desperately. And the Lightning are committed to putting a team on the ice that will be successful, that, the fans will enjoy here in Syracuse, that will help their organization up top. There's great support on and off the ice. There's, all the development coaches, the skills coaches, the skating coaches. The Lightning have really invested significantly in, the on ice and off ice stuff for their prospects at this level. So I think all of that has led to the success that we've seen. And I know, at the end of the day, the Crunch still aren't satisfied because, this organization wants to win a Calder Cup. And I know the Lightning, while happy with what we've seen over the years with over 100 players now coming through this pipeline, they want to win here too. So it really works well because of that the philosophies are so well aligned, that there's been a great synergy over the years. And it does help that, we've seen some pretty good players over the years, especially early on when it was loaded up. And now while maybe the pipeline has dried out a bit because of all the Stanley Cup runs, there's still some really good players coming through here that, the organization has been able to develop.
Because they're privately owned, unlike a lot of organizations that own their AHL affiliate, they are, I think, one of 11 right now AHL affiliates that are privately owned. Do the owners have to invest a little bit more in the community and have a little bit more of a stake in order to make sure the community buys in and year out?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And you know what? We've been fortunate now. We're coming up on year 33 of the Crunch. So we're kind of embedded in this community at this point. But, as when I say I wasn't around in 1994, but when the team started in 1994, this city was deemed, as we kind of leaned into over the years, it was deemed a hockey graveyard. There had been a lot of teams that had come through. There had been AHL teams that had come through. They didn't last long. And Howard Dolgan and his group came in. They put this team here, and it was a commitment to the community. And the number of community events that Crunch are in, whether it's the players during the season, off season, just today, a lot of, the front office was out in the community to clean up at a local park. Like, we are really invested in the community, and the Crunch Foundation puts tons of money back into the community, raising money at games. It's what we have to do to succeed. Like, there's no big league team in this city, but we have Syracuse University athletics. The football and basketball team are really big, so we're up against them. We do our best to stay as involved as we can possibly be. And we've been so fortunate that the fans have kind of embraced this team over the years. And it's not necessarily because of the on-ice success. I think part of it is because of the efforts in the community. And seeing all those different, just being out as much as we can be to make those connections and try to bring new fans in and keep the cycle going. Now, obviously, on ice success helps, and we see boosts when the team is really good on the ice. But at the end of the day, at this level, it's twofold. You have to be in the community. You also have to put on a good show in the rink. As we always say, we can't control what happens on the ice. Like, that is not. The Lightning are the folks who are putting the on ice product together. So all we can control is, the fans' experience in the building, whatever is going on around the game. We can control that to try to make it a fun environment. So those are the two things we can really control. And then, like we said earlier, the Lightning have provided a pretty good team for us to see on the ice as well.
Is there some talk about a new arena in Syracuse?
I know Howard Dolgan, Crunch owner, just put out a statement in that affiliation agreement announcement that it's time. And I think we would all agree it's time. Like, Upstate Medical University Arena, one of the oldest arenas in the league. It is time. Like, you're in the arena proper, you can't beat it. The atmosphere is terrific. It seats just over 6,000, and with however many you have in there, it's going to be loud. Like, it is a great viewing experience from inside the arena, but there are challenges to the arena, as we know. Crunch fans know it too. I mean, it's the concourses are tight, parking's not great. Like, there's a lot of things that could improve around the arena, and you got to give the county credit. They've put in some money over the years to either upgrade the seats, add suites, new scoreboard, all that stuff to keep it as kind of new-ish as possible. But I think long term, it's inevitable that the organization, the county, should be looking at something new. I don't think there's any current active plans for something to be coming up in a year or two, but I do think that with Howard putting that out, it kind of at least maybe gets the ball rolling that sooner than later, the Crunch want to see a new building. I'm sure the Lightning would love to see a new building for their prospects to play it as well. I mean, we've seen some new buildings now around the league over the last decade or so, with some of the new teams coming in, renovated buildings, whatever it might be. The Crunch are well overdue for that, but at the same time, there's such a charm to the, as we call it, the old barn as well. So it's hard to replace that. I don't think you could ever replicate the atmosphere that we have in our building right now, but some of the amenities that are lacking are definitely lacking.
At the end of the season, and it wasn't very long, Matteo Petronero, Nick Abruzzese, Brandon Fury, they signed new contracts, but they didn't go to July 1st. They re-signed before they had to. One, were you a little bit surprised? But two, what does that say about the situation playing within the Lightning organization in Syracuse?
Yeah, well, it goes back to one of the first points I made, right? Like, this group was so tight. They were so connected. And some of those guys had played together, Matteo Petronero, Nick Abruzzese. You can throw in Tommy Miller, who is re-signed as well. They all played together in Toronto before that. They are all really tight off the ice. And especially those two defensemen, Petronero and Miller, like, those are guys who did not play opening night. And we were talking about, the top 6D at the start of the year last year and how much it evolved. And those are two guys who, I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but they were depth pieces probably at the start of the year and were terrific. I mean, Matteo Petronero had a career year, scoring, plus he was great. So he was one of those guys who I think really caught a lot of eyes in the organization. So I think it was just the tightness and this group wanting to take another swing at things, which kind of helps, the idea of bringing them back. Nick Abruzzese had a great year. So that's another big piece to bring back. And Brendan Furry he was really good in Lehigh Valley. I think the organization kind of had an idea what they were getting, but he was such an important piece for this team last year that he got hurt. And with about a month-ish to go in the year, he was out for the rest of the year. And that was, I think, one of the guys they just could not replace heading into the playoffs. He was so good. And the problem is, it was, I think, either the day of the AHL trade deadline or the next day. So
the worst timing possible.
The worst timing possible.
Yeah.
And he's just such a guy. He's just so fast on the ice. Like, he flies. Dominant penalty killer, tons of shorthanded goals or chances. Like, he was such an effective part of this group, and then to lose him, right after the trade deadline, they couldn't replace him. So that was a big loss for them. And I think they're really excited to have him back as well. Jared Tenorti re-signs, a veteran piece. Like, there's a lot of guys coming back to this team, and it really does circle around how tight this group was. And the feeling at the end of last year was it was an opportunity missed because of how good the team was. So I think critical for this organization to bring him back, and it does speak to, just how this organization runs, that they're comfortable in this city. They like the feeling of the team, the organization, everything, around the organization as well. And, some of those guys, we talked about those three coming from Toronto. That's a big difference, right? Syracuse and Toronto,
Yep.
Well, you big different cities, different organizations and how they approach things. Like the Leafs and the Marlies have gobs of cash they can throw out, at their organizations, but they liked it here. Like, they enjoyed their time here and they wanted to come back again. So I think it's a really good sign for what this organization has done over the years, and we hope that continues.
I want to talk to you about Game 4, the 3 overtime game. And I don't want to talk about the game itself. I want to ask you as a broadcaster. Now, I've announced probably 150, 200 games during my broadcasting career. And I actually attended the third longest game in NHL history, the Flyers and the Pens, back in 2000, Game 4, 5 overtimes. I actually had to catch a flight out of Cleveland that morning. So I never went to sleep. But I have to ask you as a broadcaster, when the game goes that long, you got to keep your voice. What did you do differently after the first and second overtime where you're like, hey, we might be here for a while? Is there anything that you had to do personally to get through that game?
No, I was very fortunate that I drank water. That was it. Like, I was feeling good throughout the course of the day, the night. Like, it never really felt like, oh boy, I'm running out of steam now. And maybe part of it is the adrenaline is really pumping at that point, because every moment is so magnified the deeper into overtime number 1 and then number 2, and then you're into number 3. You're like, holy, this is still going on, right? But like, the adrenaline is pumping, you're feeling it, it's flying by. It doesn't feel like you've been there for that long. Helped that it was an afternoon game, so it wasn't like 2 a.m. and we were still going. I think if it was a 7 o'clock start that game, I might have been hurting a little bit more. No, I don't know. It's just the hardest thing is finding a chance to run to the men's room, right? All right, I got to run. Thankfully, I got the I had people in studio who were handling the iteration, so I had a couple minutes to
long commercial.
Yeah, exactly. So I had a chance to collect myself, basically. But unless I'm misremembering, I think my voice made it through pretty good. Now, if the Crunch had scored, I don't know if my voice would have made it through pretty good. The excitement might have been through the roof, but it just and calling games, sometimes you just have that sinking feeling. You just saw when that puck was turned over, like, this is going to be it. You know it was coming, and it hit. That's about as tough a way to end a year as you could possibly end a year. I don't know. I think I'd rather go out 7-0 and know it's over after the first period or something than being on the edge of your seat the whole time and then have the heartbreak. And it's been a couple times now. The Crunch, I have to go back into my brain a little bit here, but over the last couple of years, what was it, 2020? I'm trying to rack off the playoff series on my brain. The Crunch lost in overtime in Game 5 of the best of 5 against Laval. It was either 21 or 22. The next year, same thing, Game 5, all at home, mind you. Game 5, best of 5 overtime loss against Rochester. And then the one this past year. So I don't want to say we're getting used to this, because we're not, but it really hurts. And like the next day, it just, it kills when the team comes back in for their wrap up day. And so back to your first question or the original question, got through it okay. Didn't really do anything differently, but probably helped that it was an afternoon game.
When a game goes that long, I remember being at the Penguins Flyers game 4, and the Penguins were up 2-1 in the series at the time. I remember telling my dad sitting next to me after the fourth overtime, whoever wins this game wins the series, because when a game goes that long, you're so invested, but the emotional drain of losing is that much more. And I know you're partial in this answer, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. If Syracuse wins game 4, do you think they win game 5?
I think we had a great chance. I mean, partly because Connor Geekie would have been coming back because the Lightning were, on the verge of getting eliminated at that point. But it's also different because the AHL playoff setup is a little strange in the first 2 quote unquote rounds. You have the play-in round and you have kind of the round, the division semifinals that the Crunch have been in. And it'll be different in the North Division this year because they've added a new team. So it'll be a little bit of a different format in the North Division. But, that first division series is best of 5, and you have 3 weeks to get 5 games in. You can schedule it however you want. You can take the first week of the playoffs off when the best of 3 play-in series is going, or you can jump right in. You can end a week early. So we had it, the series was spreading out over 3 weeks again. So, if we had won that game, it was another full week between games, basically. So you might see that if the Crunch won, the momentum may have carried over a week. Cleveland was going back home. They were coming back again the next week. So it would have been a weird feel. Like, I don't know how the momentum would have carried over, but we also did see this a couple years ago, with Rochester, and similar situation. The Crunch for the home team in a game 4 up 3-0 going into the third period. Lost that game in overtime. Rochester survived, forced the game 5 back in Rochester the following week, and the Crunch came out and won game 5. So I don't know. Like, I think the Crunch would have had some momentum, but if it was played the next day, I think it would have been more momentum than, a week off. But I do think having Connor Geekie coming down, I don't remember if anyone else was hurt or coming back or whatever, but I think the Crunch had a pretty good chance if they had won that game to at least take a swing at a game 5 on home ice.
So the teams actually schedule, they have 5 games they got to get in 3 weeks. And these 2 teams just get together and say, when do you want to play? It's as simple as that.
Well, I wish it was as simple as that, but there's this past year in particular, there was a lot of back and forth, with Cleveland in particular. It's the AHL's, their how it's set up is a little, I don't want to say weird, but it's more at the discretion of the teams and building availability. And because of the distances between Syracuse and Cleveland, that series is a 2-3. So 2 games in Cleveland and then the final 3 in Syracuse. So even though the Crunch with the higher seed and had home ice advantage, they started on the road in that series. So, but there was a lot of arguing back and forth, I would say, to try to nail down a series format. And, that's just how this one worked out this past year. And sometimes, the teams will agree to take that first week off, get a kind of a bye, which it's supposed to be, in that first week when the rest of the series, the best of 3s are starting, and then jump in the following week. And then you have kind of more of a regular 5-game series schedule, I guess. But we did not see that this past year, and we'll see what happens this year. Now, the Cruncher in the North Division, they've added a team in Hamilton, so now instead of 7, there are 8 teams.
That's the Islanders affiliate, right? That went from Bridgeport? Okay. Yeah.
So the playoff format in the North Division will be with 8 teams. 6 teams will make the playoffs, but instead of 3 out of the 5 teams making it, as it had been the last couple of years, getting the bye to the division semis, it will only be the top 2 teams now. And then, so there's not going to be the weird crossover in the North Division this year where you're going to have division semis and first round series kind of crisscrossing schedules wise. So I think that'll maybe make it a little more palatable for Crunch fans who have I gotten used to this weird format, but maybe it'll be a little cleaner moving forward.
Lukas, I want to have the Bolts fans get a chance to get to know you. Born in Allendale, New Jersey. Now, if I remember correctly, I used to live in Wappingers Falls, New York, which is about 45 minutes right across the river from Newburgh, right up 287 to 87. A big strawberry town, isn't it?
Maybe, I don't know. I can't say.
Strawberries or celery? Is celery farms?
Celery, yeah. The celery farm is for sure. That is a thing. And they probably grew strawberries in there. I don't know, but the celery farm is a thing. At one point they were growing celery. Then it just became kind of a nature preserve. Boy, I haven't thought about the celery farm in years. You're bringing back all sorts of memories now. But yes, celery farm is a thing. Yeah, but like I said, but when I was growing up, there may have been actual celery growing somewhere, but it was more of it had turned into a nature preserve from what I remember. And I'm not a huge nature guy, so I didn't go there a ton. But yeah, that it's small town, but that's I guess one of the things that I hadn't thought about in years. But yeah, it's there.
You were just outside of New York City, outside of Newark. Who did you grow up rooting for?
So I was a New York Ranger fan growing up. The Devils were actually playing in East Rutherford when I was really growing up, when I was still,
Off of Route 3.
you bet. So they were still there. The first NHL game I ever went to was actually, at, I think it was Continental Airlines Arena at the time. Maybe it was the ISOD Center. I don't remember what it was called. Anyway, it was there. It was Devils and Rangers. Went to a shootout, the dreaded shootout. But, there was quite an experience. That kind of got me into the game in the first place, going to one of those, Devils Rangers games at the time. But yeah, grew up a Rangers fan in the heart of when the Devils were really, winning their Stanley Cup. So it was a little bit of a challenge, although North Jersey is a pretty good split. There's a lot of Ranger fans in New Jersey. Yep. There's quite a few Devils fans as well. There's a handful of Islanders fans. So, when the Devils were winning, the Rangers were not so good. So it was really a tough couple of years there. And then coming out of the lockout, things changed a bit. The Rangers started the Devils were still good, but the Rangers started to figure things out. They had, I don't want to say my earliest memories, but some of my finest memories were that first year out of the lockout. Jaromir Jagr had
Jagr was awesome.
Goals. That was what drew me into the sport, really, was that first year out of the lockout with Jaromir Jagr. Again, I think it was 56 goals, and Henrik Lundqvist bursting out of the scene. And that's what drew my love to the game, and it's kind of been my favorite sport ever since.
That was a tough series against the Buffalo Sabres that year. The Daniel Briere, I remember I think I was at Derby Lane in Tampa, and a bunch of us were betting on the Dogs and watching the game. But I mean, that was just a good team. And that was Yager's probably best season outside of when he left Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
He was dominant.
Yeah, he had Jagr, he had Michael Nylander, he had Martin Strott. I can rattle off those names of that team, which but yeah, that series with the Sabres, like that. I think it was Chris Drury with 7 seconds to go, ties the game. Yep. Maxim Afinogenov wins it in overtime. I know I'm up in Sabres country up here, but oh man, that is still a series that just kills me when I think back on it.
Especially when you're a kid. I mean, you live and die with every single drop of the puck. And no, I mean, but it was a hell of a series. But I mean, when you look back at that, I talk about Jagr, but he is a player in my mind who is he's underrated because he played in the league so long, but I think sometimes people forget just how dominant of a player he was. But even more than that, how good he was along the boards. I can't tell you how many times he would go in there 1-on-2 and come out with the puck every time.
Yeah, well, they'd always say he just stuck out his rear end, right? And just, he'd hold the guy off the puck and away he goes.
It was true.
You couldn't muscle him off of it. He was just so strong, so good with whatever he was doing out there. He was just so much fun to watch. And then could score. He had all the skill in the world, the great shot, everything. Just, what a joy to see, that year in particular, like I said, coming out of the lockout, he was so dominant and such fun to watch. But yeah, such a great player. And I think he's still playing over in Europe. He's never going to retire.
Though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's his team, his hometown team. He doesn't want the team to fold. He's playing strictly for the love of the game at this point. And I love it.
Now, your broadcasting career is taking you to Mississippi, Elmira, and then to Syracuse. When you were with Elmira, you called their last ever hockey game, correct, with the Jackals?
Yeah, it was a tough year. It was a tough year on the ice. The team was not great. I think we had 17 wins all year. It was my first year and my only year in the ECHL. And I knew going into it that the team was not in a great place, financially and stability wise, but there was talks of the team being sold. It was owned by the county at that point when I joined the team. And there was a independent private owner who all year it was, yep, he's going to buy it. 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 And it just kept going on and on and on. And one day it was like, yep, it's definitely happening tomorrow. We're going to have an announcement. Da, da, da. The next day, hey, I'm not sure. And legit, like we got to the ECHL has a deadline. You interview out for next year, basically. And we got to that point, and I remember going in that morning, and I had I was a broadcaster and PR, all that, whatever, all the other titles you want. And I had 2 press releases written because I didn't know going in what was happening. Are we being sold or are we folding? Like it was coming down to the wire. They were kind of finagling, I think, over the ownership, not only of the team, but of the building and all the other things that come along with it. And so I had both things prepared. I didn't know what it was going to be going in, and it ended up being that the team was folding at the end of the year. So it was tough. I mean, again, the team was not very good that year, but it had a pretty good run in Elmira. There were some really good years, some great, memories that I wasn't personally involved in, but I know, there was some great support over the years there. So it was tough. Seeing it all come to an end as quickly as it did. And then all of a sudden, now I'm out of a job.
Now what?
And then, I ended up, I always make the joke. That summer, I also ended up in Glens Falls with the Adirondack Thunder. So I got hired there. And then the end of my first week, I got a call from the Crunch that Dan Duva, who was here, was going up to, and because I had interned here under Dan Duva, and he was going up to Vegas, and they wanted to bring me in. And I was like, well, great. I just, unfortunately, am 5 days into my new job here. Like, I got to figure out what I'm going to do. And thankfully, the Adirondack Thunder they were okay with it. They pivoted and found someone else. But I always joke that the Thunder because their broadcaster had gone up to the AHL earlier that summer, and I was hired as the replacement. And so I joked that they were the only ECHL team that sent 2 broadcasters in the same offseason to the AHL.
Same season. That says something.
Yeah.
Now, so you joined Syracuse in 2017. What's your favorite memory?
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm throwing you on the spot here.
Yeah. Well, like it's tough because I interned, like I said, with the team for 2 years. And, my first year as an intern was 2013 when I went to the Calder Cup final. So, that is a year. I know I wasn't full time then, but I was really involved in that team. Like as an intern, I'd call the game in the finals on the radio when, the team was also on television. So there are some unbelievable moments in that playoff run. But let me think full time. I'll remember there was a great game in 2018. I don't know if it's my best memory or not, but it's a game that always sticks out to me. It was the Crunch of the Rochester Americans. They were battling all year neck and neck for the division title. And it was either the second to last game of the year, maybe it was the last weekend of the year, but they were playing, as they always do. I think it was game 12 of the season series. So you got used to it at that point, but they were really competitive games. And basically, if the Crunch won, they were winning. If they won, they won the division. If not, it was coming down. It must have been that final weekend. It was coming down to the last day. And it was a back and forth game. Carter Verhage, scored to give the Crunch the lead late in the third period. They had an empty netter and they win it. They won the division. So that's a game that always sticks out to me as just kind of one of those big time, the barn was full. It was a sellout crowd. They won the division that night. It was a peak regular season moment at least, and obviously we had some good playoff moments as well. But I guess on the spot I'd go with that.
Was there a player since you've been broadcasting that you saw that you're like, this is an NHL guy, this is a guy that I know I'm going to see in the big show?
Well, I go back to my intern days. We had Nikita Kucherov for a month, and he did not belong in this league at all. He came in, he was so good right away, and I think we all were like, we're not going to see him long. And we didn't see him long. It was a month and he was up, and obviously he wasn't dominant year one with the Lightning, but we know what he's become now. So that's one who comes, right off the hop. I think I mentioned Carter Verhage. Like, we didn't know what he was when he first joined the organization. Year one, he was almost a point per game player, but in limited-ish action. And then year two, he led the league in scoring. He was so good. I don't know if any of us thought he would become what he has become with the Florida Panthers. But he was a really good player at this level. Anthony Cirelli jumped in right away, and you could tell he had the full complete package, of he'll be an NHLer. We don't know his ceiling in terms of offense, but you could tell he was going to be a real legit NHL player. So I think those are a couple guys who, right away kind of impressed you. Um, I'm sure there's a couple more that I'm forgetting, but off the top of my head, those are a couple that were, who stuck out.
You travel with the team. You're around these guys year round. When you see the guys off the ice, the guys like Kucherov, you know that they're studs. But what do you see them do off the ice that makes them a little bit different, that you're like, you know what, this guy just gets it?
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. I think some guys are so good at disconnecting from, the pressures of being on the ice and the pressures that come with being a elite hockey player, right? Like they're able to, whatever happens in a game, whether they have a great game or they have a poor game, like they're able to just brush it off or move on to the next one. Like I think that's a big attribute that we see. And then a lot of it is the work that they put on off the ice in the gym. Just the extra hours that we don't see or people might not see as fans, that they're putting in off the ice in the gym, whether it's in practices, being on the ice longer, working on this skill, that skill, this specific, whatever it might be. So I think it's the guys who are driven, who have that growth mentality, that growth mindset, to be open to knowing that maybe you're not quite, you don't have everything polished off yet, and you're not expected to have it polished off when you're in the AHL, right? That's why you're here, is to round your game into form. So I think it's those guys who have that mental approach of, I'm going to get better on the ice, off the ice, be able to kind of separate those things as well, and be able to wind down when I need to wind down, and then ratchet it back up and be focused when I need to be focused, is, I think, a lot of the times what we see really works for guys coming through.
Lukas, I want to talk about your walk and talks.
Yeah.
You and I talked about it before the podcast. Absolutely love them. And if you haven't checked them out, we're going to put a link in the description, so it'll send you right to some of these walk and talks. But tell everybody in Tampa about these walk and talks. It's 2.5 minutes, but I absolutely love them.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it evolved. We had talked about it at the end of the season 2 years ago, like late in the year, and me and another person in our front office are, kind of big Formula One fans. And it kind of, they have, I don't know if you watch Formula One or not, but in mornings of races, they have Martin Brundle do his grid walk on the grid. He's, just walking up the grid, just finding people, whether it's a random person, whether it's someone there, he has a quick chat with someone, and away he goes. And those are always the highlight of the pregame for those Formula One races for me. And so we were just chatting. We're like, oh, it'd be fun if we could do that for our players walking into originally it was like walking into the game that night, when, now we have our media crew out taking the walk-in photos with all of whatever suit they're wearing, or Like, that's the big thing that everyone wants to see, their walk-in attire for games. But we were talking like, oh, let's just chat. Here's the game coming up, Well, it didn't happen that year. And that was fine. Like, we have a lot going on. It's hard to add a new element into things, mid-season. So we talked about it again in the off season, and we thought, well, maybe it'll be better. We don't have to worry about it on a game day where they're thinking about other things. We've got other things going on. Let's just do a random day in the middle of the week, whatever works for our schedule and their schedule. We'll meet these guys at the parking lot in the morning. They might be fresh out of bed, whatever it is. And we're going to just walk from the parking lot across the street, down the block to the player entrance at the rink. And we're like, that'll be about 2 minutes or so. It's nice and quick. We're going to try to keep it away from hockey for the most part. Just get to know these guys right off the ice and have a quick little chat. And that's what it turned into. And yeah, I mean, I appreciate you saying you liked it. We had a lot of positive feedback on it. So, it really turned into that. And thankfully the guys enjoyed it too. And, midway through, I was like, all right, we're going to do a walk and talk this week with you. And they were all on board. They knew what was coming. And, like I said, it wasn't planned. I didn't go into it really having any idea what we were going to talk about. And then we'd get there and whatever came up, and that was it. So, we just kept it like a regular conversation. And like I said, the guys embraced it. They enjoyed it, I hope. And I think we'll do it again this upcoming year. Yeah, right.
You can tell they do. And I think what works is the fact that it's just a conversation.
Exactly.
It's just two people walking down the street, talking about whatever. It doesn't have to always be about hockey. It's not, hey, what's going to happen tonight in the game? Who are you going to have to defend against? No, it's just two guys talking like we would be talking at a sports bar and just, I'll use the term bullshitting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like you said, like I can only ask these guys so many hockey questions throughout the course of the year because I do enough interviews, pre-game, post-game, whatever it might be with these guys after practice. Like, got to change it up somehow with something that maybe isn't going to come up in the course of a conversation after a game. So yeah, that was the idea. They at least most of the time provided the goods for us, which is good.
Okay, Lukas, I'm going to title this part of the segment, Lukas Favale, 2 minutes in the penalty box. I'm the timekeeper. You just committed a 2-minute high-sticking penalty. A quick, rapid fire from last year's team. Best skater.
I'd say Brendan Furry.
Hardest shot.
Ooh, hardest shot. I got to rack my brain now. Connor Geeky's probably there. I'd go with him.
Highest hockey IQ.
I think maybe Jacob Peltier.
Most underrated.
Either Matteo Petronero or Brendan Furry. I think those two are probably neck and neck.
Future fan favorite.
For the Lightning?
Yes.
Oh, man. Boy, that's a tough one. Maybe I'm going to say Lucas Mercury if he makes it, which I think he's got a chance at some point.
Biggest surprise.
I think maybe Lucas Mercury.
Now, this is just you. Favorite movie on the road?
Oh, my gosh. This is going to shock you. I'm not a huge movie guy.
Okay, TV show?
Yeah, I'm not a podcast listener. I listen to audiobooks. Like, that's how I spend, at least on the bus. That's how I spend my time on the bus. I'm not a huge, movie or TV show guy.
Okay, favorite road city?
Cleveland is up there. The AHL, there's such a wide discrepancy, right? I'm going to go with probably Cleveland or Toronto.
Worst press box?
Where do I even start? It's Providence, because I wouldn't even call it a press box, but it's the worst broadcast booth view by far.
Okay, now real quick, I remember announcing a Connecticut high school hockey game on scaffolding, and I took 2 shots in the game. I remember holding my notes. I mean, it's what you have to do at the time. You have to do whatever. Lukas, final question. When Bolts fans look at the Crunch box scores this year, they look at and they see all these names. Who's the name they should be saying, I need to remember that guy?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I don't know who's going to be here, right? Like,
sure.
I mean, will we see a Sam O'Reilly here? Will a Jacob Peltier still be here? Connor, of the guys who I think will probably be here at the start of the year, I might go back to Lucas Mercury again because he had a really, really strong rookie year. He's a right shot center, won a lot of faceoffs. He's tough. He's physical. He can fight. Like, I think he's got enough. I don't know if he's ready this upcoming year. He might maybe get a cup of coffee at some point this upcoming season. But I think he's got enough of a skill set that will make him a pretty good chance to make an NHL roster at some point sooner than later. I think, and you never know. It might work, it might not work. But I think he's a guy who I got my eye on for a guy who might make an impact to the NHL at some point. I don't think he's going to be a 30-goal scorer at the NHL level, but I think he could be a good, third or fourth liner who could chip in some offense, good in front of the net, hard, physical, win faceoffs, all the things you look for, at that level.
Lukas Favale, thank you very much for joining us today. It was great to touch base. Really enjoyed the conversation off the air. Wishing nothing but the best with the Crunch this season. Would love to have you back on later on in the year, get an update on how everything's going in Syracuse. Appreciate your time today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, and hope we can chat again soon.
Hey, Lightning fans, want to keep up with the Syracuse Crunch this season? Follow the team at SyracuseCrunch.com, watch the games on AHL TV through FloHockey, or listen on ESPN Radio 1200 AM or 97.7 FM in Syracuse. Be sure to check out the Crunch Chronicles podcast and head over to the Syracuse Crunch Facebook page for their walk and talk segments, where Lukas Favale chats with Crunch players on their way to the arena. It's a great way to stay connected to the Lightning's top affiliate all season long. Well, we are going to be back next week. We're going to take a look at the NHL news. Justin Godfrey will be back. You can find him each and every day at www.rawcharge.com. I'm Jason Linkus. Thank you for joining us. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and go Bolts.
Thank you for listening to Backchecking the Bolts. We are free and available on all platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, YouTube, and Deezer. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to subscribe and leave a review. You can follow Justin on Blue Sky at rawcharge.com. You can follow the show on X at Tampa_Bolts_pod and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Backchecking the Bolts. If you're interested in advertising on the show or partnering with us, you can find more information in the show notes or email Jason at backcheckingthebolts@yahoo.com.